At exactly 3:17 p.m. on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, James Parker made the mistake that would change his life forever. The single father had spent the morning grading high school science papers and worrying about his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, who was battling a rare illness called Harrington syndrome. Exhausted, distracted, and desperate for a sliver of normalcy, he sent a light-hearted, flirty text meant for a coworker who had asked him to dinner. But when he looked back down at his phone, his heart froze. The message, looking forward to tonight. Can't stop thinking about your smile and wondering what it would be like to kiss you. Hadn't gone to his date. It had gone to Victoria Reynolds, the CEO of Reynolds Pharmaceuticals, the company holding his daughter's fate in its hands. His blood ran cold as he realized he'd just flirted with one of the most powerful and notoriously cold women in the industry, the same woman whose company had repeatedly denied his daughter's entry into a life-saving treatment program. He barely had 5 minutes to panic before the doorbell rang. When James opened the door, he could hardly breathe. There stood Victoria Reynolds herself, elegant, commanding, and completely out of place on his humble porch. Her blonde hair was tousled by the wind, and her piercing blue eyes locked on his with a strange mix of irritation and curiosity. "Mr. Parker," she said, her voice smooth but edged with steel. "I believe we need to discuss the message you sent me." Flustered and mortified, James began to apologize, but she raised one manicured hand to stop him. "May I come in?" she asked evenly. "I think there's more to discuss than just a text." Inside, the living room was cluttered with toys, papers, and the lingering scent of hospital disinfectant. "Daddy, who's here?" Lily's small voice piped from the hallway, her fragile frame wrapped in oversized unicorn pajamas. When Victoria knelt and introduced herself, her voice softened instantly. "I work at the company that makes medicine," she said kindly. Lily looked up at her with innocent hope. "Can you make me better?" For the first time, the infamous Ice Queen faltered. Her blue eyes glistened as she whispered, "I'm certainly going to try." In that single moment, the corporate titan and the desperate father stood on common ground, united not by power or profit, but by a child's fragile hope. And James realized that his greatest mistake might just become the miracle he'd been praying for. The morning after Victoria Reynolds' unexpected visit, James still couldn't believe what had happened. The CEO of one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the country had sat in his small kitchen, listened to his story, and promised to help his daughter. But it wasn't until the sleek black car appeared outside his house that he truly understood she meant it. The driver handed him an envelope, official documents confirming Lily's acceptance into the experimental treatment program. And a handwritten note from Victoria herself, "Treatment starts Monday. Don't worry about transportation. My personal number is below, V." James stared at the elegant handwriting, his throat tightening with relief and disbelief. For months, he had begged, pleaded, and appealed to the company with no response. Now, with a single decision from Victoria, hope had returned to his home. When he told Lily the news, she squealed with joy before asking the question that broke his heart, "But, Daddy, how will we pay for it?" Kneeling beside her, James smiled softly. "You don't have to worry about that anymore, sweetheart. Ms. Reynolds is taking care of everything." Monday arrived with nervous excitement. James expected to see only the company driver, but when the black car pulled up, it was Victoria herself who stepped out, dressed simply in black pants and a light blue blouse instead of her usual power suit. "Good morning," she greeted with a smile that reached her eyes. "I thought I'd come along. First days can be scary." Lily beamed as Victoria handed her a small journal wrapped in silver ribbon. "It's for writing down your good days," she said gently. "When my sister was sick, she used one just like it." James noticed the flicker of pain behind her calm expression and realized that her connection to Lily ran deeper than business. At the hospital, Victoria surprised him again by staying through the entire 4-hour treatment session. She sat beside Lily, answering every question patiently and holding her hand when the nurse couldn't find a vein. Between emails and quiet laughter, the Ice Queen seemed to melt entirely. Watching her comfort his daughter, James felt something stir within him, something he hadn't felt in years. Gratitude, admiration, and maybe something more. He began to wonder if the woman who had come into their lives by accident wasn't just saving Lily's life, but changing his too. Their connection deepened quietly in the weeks that followed. Victoria visited often, checking on Lily's progress and spending hours at the hospital despite her demanding schedule. The once distant CEO now sat cross-legged on the floor, reading storybooks, helping Lily with her journal, and learning which flavor of pudding she liked best. James couldn't help but marvel at the transformation. The woman the world called the Ice Queen laughed easily in his kitchen, her polished exterior softening each time Lily tugged her hand or shared a drawing. But beyond the warmth she showed his daughter, something deeper began to form between her and James, a quiet understanding born of shared battles, sleepless nights, and a mutual desire to protect the little girl who had brought them together. When Victoria texted him one Friday night, "Would you join me for dinner to discuss Lily's progress? And, to be clear, it's not just about Lily, I've been thinking about your smile too," James froze, his heart skipping. The woman who once intimidated him now made him feel something he hadn't felt in years, alive. Their dinner took place at a quiet restaurant overlooking the city lights. Victoria arrived in a simple blue dress instead of her usual armor of designer suits, and for the first time, James saw not the CEO, but the woman beneath. Over candlelight, she spoke honestly about her life, the sister she'd lost to Harrington syndrome, the sacrifices she made to build her company, and the loneliness that came with power. "I became the Ice Queen because it was the only way to survive," she admitted softly. "But now, I'm terrified, because I care about something that isn't business." James reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. "You care about Lily," he said gently. "And maybe about me too." Her answering smile told him everything. That night, as he walked her to her car, their hands brushed, and Victoria hesitated before whispering, "I'm not good at this, relationships, vulnerability." James smiled, his voice low and sincere. "Good thing I already sent you my best flirting material." She laughed, a sound so genuine it melted the night air, and when he leaned in, she met him halfway. The kiss was soft, hesitant, and full of promise, the moment the Ice Queen finally let herself feel the warmth she'd spent years denying. Months passed, and the lives of James, Lily, and Victoria intertwined in ways none of them had expected. What began with a mistaken text had turned into something real, something that felt like family. Victoria became a regular presence in their modest home, helping Lily with her telescope, bringing flowers from her garden, and laughing over James's burnt pancakes every Sunday morning. The woman once known for her icy composure now knelt on the kitchen floor building Lego castles and cheering for Lily's small victories. Her colleagues at Reynolds Pharmaceuticals barely recognized her anymore. The once fearsome CEO who never left the office before midnight now left early to attend hospital checkups or watch Lily's dance recitals. The transformation didn't just touch her personal life, it changed her company too. Under Victoria's direction, Reynolds Pharmaceuticals shifted its focus toward compassion, expanding its rare disease program and making treatments available to families regardless of their ability to pay. She had built her empire on ambition, but love had taught her purpose. 1 year after that fateful text, James stood in the garden of their new home, nervously fidgeting with a small velvet box. Lily, her cheeks rosy and her energy fully restored, stood beside him grinning. When Victoria stepped outside, still in her work clothes but glowing in the afternoon sun, James dropped to one knee. "You changed our lives by walking through that door," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You saved Lily, but you also saved me. We love you, Victoria. Will you marry us?" Lily bounced excitedly, her curls bouncing as she cried, "Please say yes. I already told everyone at school you're going to be my mom." Tears filled Victoria's eyes, the woman the world once called heartless now speechless with joy. She nodded, unable to find words, and James pulled her into his arms as Lily squealed with happiness. Their wedding was small, simple, and filled with laughter. Months later, they welcomed twins, Michael and Sophia, named for the people who had shaped their hearts. The company continued to thrive under Victoria's compassionate leadership, and their home overflowed with love and laughter. Sometimes, when the stars shimmered above them, Victoria would show James the old message that started it all. "It's funny," she'd whisper, smiling softly. "That one mistake turned out to be the best thing I ever received." And under the same sky that had witnessed their journey, they all knew, some accidents are simply destiny in disguise.